For 31 years Leah, believed my father, Gerald. He always said Grandma Ruth was barely getting by, living a simple life, with nothing but her small house. I accepted this fundamental lie, thinking I was helping a struggling old woman. But then came her funeral. At the graveside, a lawyer handed me an envelope. Before I could take it, my father snatched it, sneered at the paltry $4,200 savings book inside, called it useless, and contemptuously threw it onto her casket, into the fresh dirt. In that single, sickening moment, everything I thought I knew shattered. Useless?
How wrong was he?
That worthless book was the key to an irrevocable trust worth $2.3 million, a fortune he'd been trying to steal for years with a forged power of attorney. In less than 24 hours, my world flipped. And there he stood, dusting dirt from his expensive suit, still convinced he'd buried her last secret for good, utterly unaware he'd just buried himself. Before I tell you what happened when they saw me, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy this story. Also, I'd love to know where you're watching from and what time it is there. Drop a comment below. Now let me take you back to before the funeral, to the Sundays that started all of this. Every Sunday for 3 years, I drove 15 minutes down Route 33 to my grandmother's house. A small white ranch with green shutters and a garden full of petunias she'd been growing since before I was born. The paint was peeling. The porch steps creaked. My father always said, "Mom's barely getting by. That house is all she's got." I never went because she asked. I went because she was the only person who never made me feel like I owed something just for existing. We had a routine. I'd bring groceries, the good bread from Muller's, not the store brand. She'd already have coffee on. I'd clean the kitchen, change her sheets, check her medications. Then we'd sit on the porch if it was warm or at the kitchen table if it wasn't, and she'd tell me stories about my mother. Nobody else told me stories about my mother. Grandma Ruth had a habit I never understood. Every first of the month, she'd sit at her desk, pull out a small brown notebook and write numbers in it. Neat columns, careful handwriting. When she was done, she'd lock it in the top drawer and pocket the key. I asked her once, "What's that, Grandma?" She smiled. "Grandma's little habit. Don't worry about it, sweetheart." I didn't push. I wish I had. There was something else. Every few months, my father would call her and say he wanted to help manage her finances. Every time she said no, politely but firmly. Once after she hung up, I saw her hand shaking. Not from weakness, from something else.
"He means well," she said.
But she didn't look at me when she said it. I believed her then. I don't anymore. Let me back up, because to understand what happened at that grave, you need to understand what it was like growing up in Gerald Sanderson's house. My mother, Emily, died when I was 10. A car accident on a Tuesday morning. I remember the cereal I was eating when the phone rang. I remember my father sitting on the kitchen floor. For about a year after that, he tried. I'll give him that.
He tried.
Then he stopped. He sent me to live with Grandma Ruth for 3 years. "Just until I get back on my feet," he said. When he married Donna Pemberton, he brought me back home. Not because he missed me, because Donna said it would look bad if his daughter lived with his mother. Donna had a son, Kyle. He was 2 years younger than me. He got the big bedroom. I got the room next to the garage. No closet, one window, heater that worked half the time. Kyle got a truck at 16. I bought a 12-year-old Civic with waitressing money. Donna was good at appearances. In front of neighbors she'd say, "We treat all our kids the same." Behind closed doors she'd tell my father, "Your daughter eats here, sleeps here, and contributes nothing." I contributed. I paid the electric bill every month starting at 19. My father never mentioned that. I got my nursing degree at 23, worked as a community health nurse, built a life. But when Grandma Ruth got sick in 2022, I cut my hours to take care of her. My income dropped, my savings drained, and I ended up back in that room next to the garage. My father told the neighbors, "I'm supporting my adult daughter because she can't manage on her own." He never mentioned the electric bill. In the fall of 2022, Grandma Ruth was diagnosed with congestive heart failure. The doctor said she could stay home if she had consistent help. So, I rearranged my entire life. 3 days a week I worked at the clinic. The other 4 I was at her house, bathing her, cooking meals she could swallow, driving her to cardiology appointments 40 minutes away, sorting her pills into those little plastic organizers with the days of the week printed on them. My father visited 3 times in 2 years. I counted. Each time he sat at her kitchen table and said the same thing. Mom, just let me handle your accounts. It's easier for everyone. Each time she shook her head, each time he left within the hour. Donna never came, not once. Kyle came once. He stood in the doorway, looked around the small house, and asked, "So, Grandma, you got anything put away for when, later?" Ruth just looked at him, said nothing. He left after 12 minutes. One afternoon in early 2023, I was sorting mail at Grandma Ruth's kitchen counter. I found a bank envelope, her monthly statement. I wouldn't normally look, but it was already open and a number caught my eye. A withdrawal. $15,000, March 2023. Grandma, did you take out $15,000? She didn't look up from her crossword. Grandma made a mistake.
Don't worry about it.
I let it go. I shouldn't have. That same week, I passed her bedroom door and heard her on the phone. Low voice, careful. Make sure it's airtight, Warren. He'll try. She hung up before I could ask. That night, she held my hand at the kitchen table and said something I didn't understand until weeks after she was gone. When I die, take the book in the drawer. Don't let your father have it. Promise me. I promised. October 5th, a Sunday. I drove to her house the same way I always did. Radio off, windows down because the air smelled like wood smoke and dry leaves. The front door was unlocked. The coffee pot was cold. I found her in bed, hands folded over her old Bible, eyes closed. She looked like she was sleeping, except the room was too still. No clock ticking, no shallow breathing from the oxygen machine I'd set up by her nightstand. I sat on the edge of the bed and held her hand.
It was cool, stiff.
I didn't cry. I just sat there. The house smelled like lavender and old paper, like it always did. I called 911. Then I called my father. He arrived 2 hours later. Donna wasn't with him. His first words when he walked through the door. Did she have a will? Not. How did she go? Not. Are you okay? Not even. Where is she? Did she have a will? I watched him move through the house. He opened the desk drawers first, then the filing cabinet, then the closet in her bedroom, while she was still lying right there. He rifled through shoe boxes, old envelopes, folders, looking for something. I remembered her words. I opened the top drawer of her writing desk, the one she always kept locked. The lock was broken now. Inside was the small brown savings book, faded cover, her name on the first page, Ruth Sanderson. And tucked inside, a slip of paper in her handwriting. Bring this to the bank. Ask for Janet. Trust me, Grandma. I slid the book into my purse before my father came back into the room. He searched for another hour. He never found what he was looking for. The funeral was held at Grace Lutheran, the little stone church on Main Street, where Grandma Ruth had attended services every Sunday for 40 years.
About 60 people came.
In a town like Millfield, Ohio, that's not a small number. It means everyone. My father wore a dark suit I'd never seen before. Donna wore black, expensive black. The kind you buy when you want people to notice your grief. Kyle wore sneakers and kept checking his phone. Gerald stood at the pulpit and delivered a eulogy that made my skin crawl. My mother lived a simple life, he said. She didn't have much, but she had love, and that's what matters. His voice cracked on the word love. Donna dabbed her eyes in the front pew. 2 women behind me whispered, "What a devoted son." I sat in the first row and said nothing. I knew he hadn't called his mother on her birthday this year. I knew he hadn't visited when she had pneumonia in January. I knew he'd searched her house before her body was cold, but this was his stage, and Gerald Sanderson had always been good at stages. After the service, Donna hugged everyone at the door. Ruth was like a mother to me, she told each person. My grandmother once told me, that woman hasn't called me in 4 years. Outside, I saw Kyle taking a selfie in the parking lot, leaning against his car, smiling at a funeral. Peggy Calloway, Grandma Ruth's oldest friend, 74 years old, 5 foot tall, backbone of steel, saw it, too. Her jaw tightened. She said nothing. And in the back row of the church, I noticed someone I didn't expect. A gray-haired man in a quiet suit, Warren Holt, attorney at law. He caught my eye and nodded, just once. I didn't know yet what that nod meant. At the cemetery, they lowered the casket into the ground. The October wind pulled at coat hems and scattered a few dried leaves across the fresh dirt. 60 people stood in a half-circle, quiet. Then Warren Holt stepped forward. He approached me, not my father, and held out a manila envelope. "Your grandmother wanted you to have this," he said, personally. Before I could open it, my father's hand shot out and snatched it. "What is this?" Gerald tore the envelope. Inside was a savings book, identical to the one already in my purse, brown cover, yellowed pages, but this was the original, the one the bank had issued. He flipped it open, read the balance, for $1,200.
He laughed.
Not a small laugh, the kind that carries. Then he threw it. The savings book landed on top of the casket, bounced once, and slid into the mound of loose earth beside the grave. Dirt still dark and damp. "It's useless," my father said. $4,000. Let it stay buried with her. That's all she ever had. Donna covered her mouth, but I could see the smile behind her fingers. Carl had his phone out, recording. He laughed. $4,000? I spend that in a month. 60 people. Nobody spoke. Peggy Calloway's hands were clenched at her sides. A few neighbors looked away. I stood very still for a moment. Then I stepped forward, knelt at the edge of the grave, and picked up the savings book from the dirt. I brushed it off carefully, slowly. I put it in the inside pocket of my coat, over my heart. I didn't say a word. Gerald watched me. "You want that junk? Fine. That's your inheritance. Don't come asking me for anything else." That book was covered in the same dirt they'd just shoveled over my grandmother. I picked it up the way you pick up something sacred that someone dropped by accident. Except it wasn't an accident. That evening, I drove back to my father's house. The porch light was on. The door was locked. I found my clothes on the hallway floor. Not in suitcases. In black trash bags. 3 of them. My books in a cardboard box. My nursing textbooks stacked on top of my mother's old quilt. The one I'd kept since I was 10. Donna opened the door. She didn't step aside to let me in. "Kyle needs the room for his home office," she said. "Your father agrees." Gerald appeared behind her, arms crossed. "You're 31, Leah. Time to figure it out." "You're throwing me out the night of Grandma's funeral? Don't be dramatic. You've had years to save up." I had $1,800 in my checking account, enough for a deposit on the cheapest studio in Millfield, maybe. Not enough for a second month. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I picked up the trash bags with my name on them, and I loaded them into my Civic. I sat in the driveway for 10 minutes. The porch light went off. I called Peggy Calloway. "Come stay with me tonight, sweetheart," she said. No questions, no hesitation. Ruth would have wanted that. At Peggy's kitchen table, at 11 o'clock at night, I opened the savings book. The one from the grave, dirt still in the spine. $4,200. And tucked between the last page and the back cover, the same slip of paper, identical handwriting. "Go to the bank, ask for Janet." The book opens the door. Grandma. The book opens the door. What door? I didn't sleep that night. But by morning, I had a plan. One stop. The Millfield branch of First Commonwealth Bank. Whatever door Grandma Ruth left for me, I was going to walk through it. The next morning, I walked into First Commonwealth Bank at 9:05. I was still wearing yesterday's black dress under my coat. I hadn't brushed my hair. My eyes were swollen. The lobby was small. 3 teller windows. A potted fern that had seen better days. 2 customers ahead of me. I waited. When I reached the counter, I said, "I'd like to speak with Janet, please." The young teller blinked.
"Jeanette Hughes?"
"She's our senior account officer. Do you have an appointment?" "No, but my grandmother told me to ask for her." Something in my voice, or maybe something in my face, made the teller pick up the phone. Janet Rios came out 2 minutes later. Mid-40s, reading glasses on a chain, firm handshake. She led me to a glass-walled office at the back. I placed the savings book on her desk. She opened it, typed the account number into her computer, paused, typed it again. She looked at the screen, then at me, then at the screen. "Excuse me for a moment," she said. She stood up, stepped out, and closed the door behind her. Through the glass, I watched her make a phone call. Her expression changed. She pressed her hand flat against the wall. Then she came back. "Miss Anderson, this savings account is linked to a trust, an irrevocable trust. You are listed as the sole beneficiary."
Ist zerrt her.
"A trust? My grandmother set up a trust? I need to call our compliance department."
She paused.
Her voice dropped. "And I need to contact the police. Please don't leave." "The police?
Why?
There are unauthorized transactions on a linked account. Someone accessed funds using a power of attorney that our records show was revoked over 2 years ago." The room tilted. I gripped the armrest. "How much is in the trust?" Janet looked at me like she was deciding whether I could handle the answer. Janet turned the monitor, so I could see it. She pointed at a number near the top of the screen. $2,317,000. I read it 3 times. I read it a 4th time because my hands were shaking and I thought I was miscounting zeros. $2 million. My voice broke. $2,317,000, Janet said quietly. Held in an irrevocable trust established in 2017, administered by this bank as corporate trustee. The sole named beneficiary is Leah Marie Sanderson. She began explaining. The trust was funded over decades. Your grandmother worked as a bookkeeper at Colton Manufacturing for 31 years. She contributed to a pension. She received life insurance proceeds from your grandfather's passing in 2005, approximately $350,000. In 2010, she sold 80 acres of family farmland west of town. Midwest agricultural land had appreciated significantly. The sale netted roughly $1.2 million. The rest was accumulated interest and dividends, carefully managed. She lived in an 800-square-foot house, I said. Yes, Janet said, by choice. My grandmother grew up during rationing. She wore the same 3 cardigans in rotation. She clipped coupons. She grew tomatoes and canned them every August. Not because she had to, because she remembered what it was like to have nothing and she never wanted to feel that way again. My father told everyone she was poor. He believed it. He never bothered to look deeper. The trust is irrevocable, Janet continued. It cannot be contested or modified. Your grandmother designed it with her attorney to be, her words, unbreakable. I stared at that number until my vision blurred. Not because of the money, because she planned this. She knew he'd throw the book away. And she bet everything on the chance that I'd pick it up. Grandma Ruth had always been the quietest person in the room. Turns out, she was also the smartest. The police arrived at the bank within the hour. 2 officers, one in uniform, one in a gray suit who introduced himself as a detective from the County Fraud Division. They sat across from me in Janet's office while she pulled records on her screen. Here's what we're seeing, Janet said. She turned the monitor toward the detective. In 2023, 3 withdrawals were made from a linked checking account using a durable power of attorney in the name of Gerald Sanderson. $15,000 in March, $12,000 in June, $13,000 in September. Total $40,000. The detective made a note. And the power of attorney? Revoked by Mrs. Ruth Sanderson on January 9, 2023. We have the revocation on file. Every transaction after that date was unauthorized. My stomach turned. March 2023. That was the withdrawal I'd seen on the bank statement at Grandma Ruth's kitchen counter. The one she said was a mistake. She hadn't made a mistake. She'd been robbed by her own son. And she knew.
She knew the whole time.
She didn't tell me because she didn't want me to worry. Or maybe because she was already building something else, something stronger than worry. The detective turned to me. Miss Sanderson, were you aware of these transactions?
No.
I saw one statement. She told me it was an error. I believed her. This falls under elder financial exploitation. Under Ohio law, it's a felony. We'll need to open a formal investigation. I nodded. I didn't trust my voice. Outside the bank, I sat in my car for 20 minutes. My father stole from his own mother while she was losing her memory. $40,000. And she knew. She knew, and instead of confronting him, she built a fortress around everything else and left me the key. That bank statement on her kitchen counter. It wasn't careless. She wanted me to see it. She was planting a seed I wouldn't understand for 2 more years. In Millfield, news doesn't travel, it detonates. By the next afternoon, half the town had heard some version of the story. Ruth Sanderson, quiet, cardigan-wearing Ruth, had left her granddaughter a fortune, and her son hadn't gotten a dime. My phone rang at 6 p.m. Gerald, whatever that crazy old woman put in some trust, it's not yours. His voice was tight, controlled. The voice he used when he wanted you to know he was holding back. I'm her son. I'm contesting it. It's irrevocable, Dad. You can't contest it. Watch me. He hired a lawyer. I found out later it was Dennis Pratt from the strip mall on Oak Street. Family law, DUIs, and the occasional real estate closing. Not exactly a trust litigation specialist. Pratt apparently told Gerald the truth. An irrevocable trust with a corporate trustee was nearly impossible to overturn. Gerald told Pratt to try anyway. Then came Donna. She called the next day. Sweet voice, concerned voice, the voice she used for church fundraisers and parent-teacher nights. Leah, honey, think about what this is doing to your father. He's heartbroken. Ruth was his mother. Sharing would be the right thing. It's what family does. I didn't answer. She waited. Leah, are you there? I'm here, Donna. So, what do you think? I think my grandmother made her decision. I'm honoring it.
Click.
That evening, Cal posted on Facebook. A photo of a headstone, not Grandma Ruth's, just a stock photo, with the caption, "Some people will do anything for money, even rob their own grandfather's grave." 47 reactions, 12 comments, most of them people who hadn't attended the funeral and didn't know the first thing about my grandmother. The town was splitting. Some sided with Gerald, the heartbroken son passed over by a confused old woman. Others knew better. They'd seen who actually showed up on Sundays. Okay, let me step outside the story for a second. At this point, I was sitting in Peggy's guest bedroom holding a savings book with grave dirt still in the spine, and my father was threatening me with lawyers. So, here's my honest question for you. If your father, the man who threw your grandmother's last gift onto her grave and called it garbage, suddenly demanded you hand over what she left you, would you give it up just to keep the peace? Tell me in the comments. I genuinely want to know. Because at that moment I almost considered it. Almost. Alright, back to what happened next. And trust me, it gets worse before it gets better. 2 days after the bank visit, I sat in Warren Holt's office on the 2nd floor of a brick building on Maple Street. Oak desk, law books floor to ceiling. A photograph of him and my grandfather fishing at Salt Fork Lake, circa 1988. Warren was 67, calm the way old trees are calm. He folded his hands and told me everything. Your grandmother came to me in 2017, he said. She sat in that same chair. She said, "My son will try to take everything. I know him. I need this to be unbreakable." He explained the structure. Irrevocable trust. Corporate trustee, the bank itself, not a person Gerald could pressure or intimidate. Leah Marie Sanderson as sole beneficiary. The savings book was designed as a physical activation key. Leah had to present it in person with valid identification to trigger the verification process. Why the savings book? I asked. Warren almost smiled. Because she knew Gerald. He'd tear the house apart looking for legal documents, wills, contracts, deeds. He'd never give a second thought to an old passbook showing $4,000. She was right. He threw it on her grave. Then Warren told me the rest. In 2023, your grandmother discovered the unauthorized withdrawals. She contacted me immediately. I reported the fraudulent POA usage to the bank's compliance division at her request, but she instructed me not to act further. Why not? Her exact words were, "Let him dig his own grave. The truth will come out when it needs to." Warren leaned forward. Your grandmother didn't want revenge, Leah. She wanted protection for you. But she was also not going to let her son steal from her, without consequence. Ruth Sanderson, 5 feet 3 inches, clip-on earrings, clipped coupons every Thursday, and she built a legal trap so precise that her own son walked straight into it and never saw the walls. Gerald didn't just hire a lawyer. He launched a campaign. Within a week, he'd called every relative in 3 counties. Aunts, uncles, cousins I hadn't seen since my mother's funeral. His version of events was polished. My own daughter is stealing my mother's money. Mom was confused at the end. She didn't know what she was signing.
Some of them called me.
Not to accuse, most of them were polite about it, but to advise. Aunt Helen, maybe you should split it, Leah. It's the right thing to do. Don't let money destroy family. Cousin Brian, your dad's hurting. He just lost his mom. Think about how this looks. The calls came every day, 1 or 2 in the morning, 1 or 2 at night. A slow, steady drip of guilt dressed up as concern. Then Donna escalated. She organized what she called a family meeting at Gerald's house, invited 10 relatives. I was not invited. I heard about it from Aunt Carol, my father's younger sister, the only one who seemed unsure about whose side to take. At the meeting, Gerald reportedly cried, "My mother skipped her own son," he told the room. What did I do wrong? Donna proposed a solution. 50-50th split. Gerald gets half, Leah keeps half. Fair is fair, she said. Several heads nodded. The meeting was about to end when a car pulled into the driveway, a small blue sedan. Peggy Calloway got out, walked to the front door, stood on the porch, and spoke loud enough for everyone inside to hear. 6 words. Then she turned around and drove away. The room went quiet. Gerald's face changed color. And for the first time since the funeral, nobody called me that night. Peggy said 6 words, and I didn't find out what they were until the next morning. Peggy told me over breakfast, toast, and black coffee. Her kitchen smelled like butter and would smoke. I said, I know why Ruth did this. That's it. That's it. Then your father tried to explain. He said, because she was losing her mind. So I gave him one more sentence. Peggy sipped her coffee. I said, her mind was sharper than yours ever was, Gerald. She kept records of everything. Records of everything. In Millfield, that sentence carries weight because in a town this small, everyone has something they don't want on record. Gerald would have known exactly what that meant. The POA, the withdrawals, the paper trail. Aunt Carol called me that afternoon. Her voice was different, cautious. Leah, what records is Peggy talking about? You'd have to ask Peggy. Gerald says she's just a crazy old woman trying to stir things up. Peggy's 74. She ran the county library for 30 years. She's not crazy. A pause. I'm starting to think there's more to this than your father's telling us. There is, Aunt Carol, but it's not my story to leak. It'll come out on its own. The calls from relatives slowed down, not all at once, but noticeably. A few people quietly withdrew their support. This is between you and your father, Cousin Brian texted. I'm staying out of it. That evening, Peggy set a cup of chamomile on my nightstand. She sat on the edge of the guest bed and said, Ruth left me something for you, a letter, but she made me promise I can only give it to you after the trust is fully settled. Not yet, sweetheart. Soon. What does it say? Peggy patted my hand. It says everything you need to hear, but you're not ready yet. Your grandmother was quiet, Leah, but quiet people keep the best records. The county fraud detective called Gerald on a Thursday morning. I know this because Gerald called me 14 minutes later. I know it was 14 minutes because I looked at the call log afterward, trying to piece together how fast a man can go from threatening to begging. Fast. The answer is fast. Leah, please. His voice was different now, thin. The bravado stripped out. Call off the investigation. I'm your father. Don't do this to me. I didn't start this, Dad. The bank flagged it. I can't call off anything even if I wanted to. If I go down for this, it'll destroy the family. Is that what you want? I closed my eyes. You destroyed it a long time ago. You just didn't notice. Silence. Then the line went dead. Donna called 20 minutes later. No more sweet voice. No more church fundraiser warmth. The mask was off. Listen to me carefully, Leah. If you don't drop this, we will make sure everyone in Millfield knows you manipulated a sick old woman to steal from your own father.
Go ahead, Donna. The truth is on my side.
Truth? She almost spat the word. You think truth matters in a town like this? People believe what they want to believe. Then I guess we'll find out. She hung up. That same week, Gerald filed a petition to contest the trust. Grounds: undue influence. He claimed I had manipulated Grandma Ruth during her cognitive decline to redirect her assets. His lawyer, Dennis Pratt, filed it knowing it was a long shot. Gerald filed it knowing he had no choice. Because by now, the investigation wasn't just about the trust. It was about $40,000, a forged power of attorney, and a felony charge that didn't care about family meetings or Facebook posts. You can call me whatever you want, Donna. But I'm not the one the police are looking at. Warren Holt called me into his office later. He was seated behind his oak desk, a manila folder open in front of him, and for the first time since I'd known him, he was smiling. Gerald's petition claims undue influence, Warren said. To win, he'd need to prove your grandmother was mentally compromised when she created the trust in 2017 and that you coerced her.
She wasn't compromised.
She was sharper than anyone in the family. I know, and I can prove it. He slid 3 documents across the desk. First, a cognitive capacity evaluation performed by Dr. Reeves in April 2017, the same month the trust was executed. Ruth scored in the 93rd percentile. Clear mind, clear intent. He tapped the second document. Bank records showing the forged POA transactions. This establishes Gerald's financial motive to contest the trust, not grief, not fairness, but money. And the third, Warren turned his laptop toward me. On the screen was a Facebook video. Kyle's video, filmed at the cemetery. You could see Gerald clearly snatching the savings book, reading the balance, laughing, and throwing it onto the casket. His voice sharp and unmistakable. It's useless. Let it stay buried. Kyle had posted it to mock me. 47 reactions, some laughing emojis. He'd titled it Grandma's Big Inheritance, LOL. Kyle handed us the strongest piece of evidence we have, Warren said. This video shows your father had no emotional attachment to your grandmother's legacy. It contradicts everything in his petition. No judge will look at this and see a grieving son. I stared at the screen. Kyle had recorded his own family's undoing and posted it online for likes. Kyle posted that video thinking it was funny, Warren said. The judge won't find it funny. Gerald's lawyer reportedly advised him to withdraw the petition. Gerald refused. Some people can't stop digging even when they're already standing in the hole. There was a night I won't pretend there wasn't when I nearly gave in. It was 11 p.m. at Peggy's house. The guest room was dark. The savings book sat on the nightstand. The dirt from the grave now dry and cracked in the spine. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling and thinking about my father. Not this version of my father. The earlier one. The one who put me on his shoulders at the county fair when I was 5. The one who made pancakes on Saturday mornings before Mom died. The one who cried at the kitchen table the day she was gone. Really cried. The kind where your whole body shakes. That man was still in there somewhere. Buried under Donna, under debt, under 20 years of choosing the wrong thing. I picked up my phone. I almost called him. I was going to say, take it. Take all of it. I don't want to fight anymore. Then Peggy appeared in the doorway. She couldn't sleep either. She set a cup of chamomile on the nightstand and sat on the edge of the bed. Ruth told me something once, Peggy said. She said, if Leah gives in, Gerald will spend every cent in 2 years. Then he'll blame her for not having anything left. I put the phone down. You're not fighting him, Leah. You're honoring her. There's a difference. I looked at the savings book. The dirt was dry now, but I could still see the faint impression of a fingerprint on the cover. Grandma Ruth's. She had held this book thousands of times, updating it, protecting it, planning. She didn't leave me money. She left me a choice. I wasn't going to waste it. November came in cold. The investigation was still open. Gerald's petition was still pending. The town was still whispering. Then the invitation arrived. Not a formal invitation, just a group text from Donna to the extended family. Thanksgiving at our house. All family welcome. Time to come together. I wasn't included in the group text. Aunt Carol forwarded it to me with a one-line message. You should come. Family is family. I knew what this was. Gerald and Donna wanted a stage, a room full of relatives, a Thanksgiving table, and an audience for their version of reconciliation, which meant pressure Leah to share the money in front of everyone. Make her the villain if she says no. Make it about family, not fraud. I called Warren. You don't owe them anything, he said. But if you go prepared. He gave me copies, a summary of the trust's legal standing, the list of unauthorized POA transactions with dates and amounts, the revocation document from January 2023. Not weapons, he said, just facts, in case someone asks questions. And if they don't ask, then you eat turkey and leave. But I've met your father, Leah. He won't be able to resist making a speech. Warren was right about that. Gerald had never met a room he didn't want to perform in. I spent the night before Thanksgiving at Peggy's. She ironed my blouse. I made corn casserole, Grandma Ruth's recipe, the one with the Ritz crackers on top. Peggy squeezed my arm at the door. Ruth would be proud of you, she said. Ruth would tell me to bring a bigger casserole. Peggy laughed. First time in weeks. I drove to my father's house on Thanksgiving morning. I hadn't been inside since the night they put my clothes in trash bags. The truth doesn't need a speech. It just needs the right room. 15 people, long table, white tablecloth Donna probably bought that morning. Candles, a turkey that was too brown on one side. The house smelled like rosemary and something artificial. One of Donna's plug-in air fresheners. I set the corn casserole on the counter. A few relatives hugged me. Others just nodded. Kyle didn't look up from his phone. Gerald shook my hand like I was a business associate, not his daughter. Donna seated me at the far end of the table next to the wall. I didn't protest. We made it through the salad. Then Gerald stood up. He tapped his water glass with a butter knife. The room quieted. Before we eat, he said, I want to say a few words. He thanked everyone for coming. He talked about family. He talked about gratitude. Standard Thanksgiving material. Then the turn. As many of you know, there's been some confusion about my mother's estate. He paused, looked down at his plate, looked up. I want to be clear. My mother was a simple woman. She lived simply. And if she made certain decisions near the end of her life, it was because she was influenced by someone she trusted too much. He looked directly at me. 15 heads turned.
Donna jumped in.
We just want what's fair. Ruth would have wanted her son to be taken care of. Leah knows that. Kyle, mouthful of bread. Yeah, Leah. Just do the right thing. 15 people, candles flickering, the room waiting for me to fold. I set down my fork. I placed my napkin beside my plate. I stood up. Gerald's eyes narrowed. Donna's hand moved to his arm. Kyle finally put down his phone. I'd spent 31 years being the quiet one at the end of the table. Tonight, I had something to say. My voice was steady. I made sure of that. You want to talk about what Grandma Ruth wanted? Okay, let's talk. The room held its breath. Dad, you visited her 3 times in 2 years. I was there every Sunday. I changed her sheets. I drove her to every cardiology appointment. I held her hand when she couldn't sleep. Gerald opened his mouth. I didn't stop. You told everyone she was poor. She wasn't poor. She chose to live simply. There's a difference. I reached into the folder I'd brought in with the casserole dish. I placed a single sheet of paper on the table, slid it toward the center, so everyone could see. In 2023, someone used a forged power of attorney to withdraw $40,000 from Grandma Ruth's bank account. $15,000 in March, $12,000 in June, $13,000 in September. Silence. The candle nearest to me flickered. The police are investigating. The name on that power of attorney is Gerald Sanderson. A fork hit a plate somewhere down the table. Aunt Carol pressed her hand over her mouth. Donna went white. Gerald's chair scraped back. That's a lie. She gave me permission. She revoked the power of attorney on January 9th, 2023. Every withdrawal after that is fraud. I kept my voice level. Elder financial abuse under Ohio law, that's a felony, Dad. Nobody moved. Nobody reached for the mashed potatoes, or refilled a glass. The turkey sat in the center of the table, untouched, going cold. Gerald looked at the faces around him, his brother-in-law, his cousins, his sister. Every one of them staring back with the same expression, the slow, terrible dawn of understanding. I didn't come here to fight. I came here because you invited me to a family table. So, here's the family truth. Donna shot to her feet. This is ridiculous. Leah is twisting everything. Gerald loved his mother. The room didn't move. Aunt Carol, Gerald's younger sister, the one who'd forwarded me the invitation, spoke for the first time, quiet, careful. Gerald, is it true? Did you forge that power of attorney? Gerald stared at the table. His jaw worked. No words came. That silence was louder than anything he'd ever said from a pulpit. Donna tried again. She turned on me, finger raised. You ungrateful little— I wouldn't finish that sentence, Donna. The voice came from behind me. Peggy Calloway stepped through the kitchen doorway. She'd been there since before the meal started. I'd asked her to come. She'd insisted on waiting in the kitchen. Just in case, she'd said. Just in case was now. Peggy held a small cassette recorder, old-fashioned, the kind with a mini tape. Ruth kept every letter, every voicemail, including the one where you told Gerald to, and I'm quoting, clean out the old woman's account before she changes her mind. Donna's face collapsed. I didn't. January 15th, 2023. Gerald's voicemail box. Ruth heard it when she was visiting his house. She called me that night. She played it for me over the phone, and she recorded it. The room exhaled. Uncle Jim leaned back in his chair and covered his eyes. Cousin Brian pushed his plate away. Carol turned to Kyle. And wasn't that your video, the one from the funeral? Gerald throwing the savings book on the casket? You posted it online. Kyle stood up. I was just joking around. A judge won't think so, Carol said. Kyle looked at his phone. His thumbs moved fast, deleting. But screenshots live forever in a small town. The candles were still burning. The turkey was ice cold. Nobody was eating. I looked around the table. 15 faces, some stunned, some ashamed, a few looking at Gerald the way you look at someone you thought you knew. I took a breath, kept my voice even. I'm not here to humiliate anyone. The facts are on the table, literally. I picked up the sheet of paper and folded it. Put it back in my folder. Dad, I don't want your apology. I don't need it. What I need is for you to understand. I'm not giving up what Grandma Ruth left me. Not half, not $1. Because she didn't leave it to me as a gift. She left it to me as a boundary. Gerald's eyes were wet. Whether from shame or self-pity, I couldn't tell. Maybe both. She knew you wouldn't take care of her. She knew Donna would push you to take everything. She knew Kyle would laugh. I paused. And she still loved you, Dad. She just didn't trust you. I picked up my coat from the back of the chair. And I don't either. Not anymore. Gerald reached across the table. Leah, I won't be coming back to this house. You have my number if you ever want to have an honest conversation. But I won't hold my breath. I looked at the room one last time. At the white tablecloth. At the casserole I'd made with my grandmother's recipe. At Donna, sitting rigid, staring at nothing. At Kyle, phone in his lap, face flushed. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. I walked out. Peggy followed. Behind me, I heard nothing. No shouting, no chairs scraping, just the kind of silence that settles over a room when everyone in it is recalculating who they've been defending. I didn't need their approval to live my life. And Grandma Ruth made sure I didn't need their permission either. 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, Gerald was formally summoned by the county prosecutor's office. The charge, elder financial exploitation, a third-degree felony under Ohio Revised Code, punishable by up to 5 years. He needed a criminal defense attorney now, not Dennis Pratt from the strip mall, a real one. The retainer alone was $12,000, money he didn't have. He put it on the credit card that was already carrying the Dawn-approved kitchen renovation from last year. The house, still mortgaged at $180,000, was now bleeding money from 3 directions: mortgage, legal fees, and the $40,000 he'd have to repay if the court ordered restitution. He withdrew his petition to contest the trust. His attorney advised him in writing, continuing the civil case while facing criminal charges for the same underlying conduct was, in legal terms, catastrophic. Millfield did the rest. In a town of 4,000 people, reputation is currency, and Gerald's account was overdrawn. His plumbing clients started canceling. Sorry, Gerald. Going with Hoffman this time. One after another, the phone stopped ringing. Donna's friends at Grace Lutheran, the same women she'd hugged at the funeral, stopped saving her a seat at Wednesday Bible study. Kyle deleted his Facebook account entirely and started spending weekdays at Donna's sister's place 2 towns over. I heard all of this secondhand from Carol, from Peggy, from the woman at the post office who sold me stamps and said, I always wondered why Ruth lived alone. I didn't report him. The bank did. I didn't leak the story. The town talked. I didn't campaign against him. I just stopped covering for him. All I did was pick up a book from the dirt. Everything else he built himself. Let me step out of the story for a moment. People have asked me, do you feel guilty about what happened to your father? Honestly, I've asked myself that every night since Thanksgiving. He's still my dad. He taught me to ride a bike before Mom died. But here's what I've learned. Loving someone doesn't mean letting them steal from the people you love most. So, I want to ask you, has anyone in your life ever used the word family to pressure you into giving up something you deserved? Tell me in the comments. Your stories matter to me. Now, let me tell you about the letter. The trust was officially confirmed in the first week of December. Warren Holt called me to sign the final distribution paperwork. When I left his office, I drove to Peggy's house. She was waiting at the kitchen table, a cup of tea on my side, and in front of her a sealed envelope, cream-colored, my name on the front in blue ink. Grandma Ruth's handwriting, the same careful cursive from the savings book, from the grocery list she left on the counter, from the birthday cards she never missed. She made me promise, Peggy said, only after it was settled. I opened it with shaking hands. 3 pages, yellow legal paper, blue pen. Dear Leah, if you're reading this, then I'm gone, and you did what I asked. You kept the book. I knew you would. I knew because you're the only one who ever kept showing up. I had to stop. My vision blurred. I kept reading. I'm sorry I couldn't give this to you while I was alive. If Gerald knew, he would have found a way to take it. He's my son and I love him, but I see who he is. I've seen it for a long time. This money isn't a reward, sweetheart. It's a head start. Use it to build the life you deserve. The one your mother would have given you if she'd had more time. The one your mother would have given you. Don't hate your father. He's lost, but don't sacrifice yourself for his mistakes, either. You are allowed to choose yourself. Love, Grandma Ruth. P.S. I hope you still make my chicken soup on Sundays. I folded the letter, pressed it against my chest, and for the first time since she died, I cried. Really cried. The kind where your whole body shakes. Peggy didn't say a word. She just put her hand on mine and let me fall apart at her kitchen table. Then she said, there's one more thing Ruth left. Not in the letter, in her house. Peggy drove me to Grandma Ruth's house. It was exactly as I'd left it. Petunias dead from the frost. Porch steps still creaking. The lavender air freshener fading, but still there if you breathe deep enough. She led me to the basement, past the furnace, past the shelf of canned tomatoes, to a corner behind the water heater, where a wooden box sat on an old towel. It was small, maybe a foot wide, dark walnut, and carved into the lid, in letters that had been smoothed by time and touch, was a single name, Emily. My mother's name. I knelt on the concrete floor and opened it. Inside, a journal. My mother's handwriting. Entries from when she was pregnant with me. The baby kicked today, right side just below my ribs. I think she's going to be stubborn. Beneath the journal, a small stack of photographs. My parents on their wedding day. My mother laughing. My father young and thin, and looking at her like she was the only person in the frame. My mother holding me as a newborn, still in the hospital gown. Under the photographs, a silver bracelet, thin chain, no clasp. My mother wore it every day. And at the very bottom, a birthday card, handwritten, unfinished. Happy 11th birthday, my little. She died 6 weeks before I turned 11. She never finished the card. My father had thrown this box away when he cleared out the house for Donna. Grandma Ruth found it in the trash. She kept it for 20 years, waiting for me. I sat on the basement floor in a house that smelled like lavender and canned tomatoes and held my mother's bracelet against my wrist. My grandmother didn't just protect my future. She protected my past. I used a portion of the trust to buy a house. Nothing grand. A 2-bedroom cottage on Birch Lane, 6 minutes from Grandma Ruth's old place. White siding. A front porch just big enough for 2 chairs. I planted petunias along the walkway, the same variety she grew. I went back to work full-time. Community health nursing. Same clinic, same patients, same 12-hour shifts. I didn't quit. I didn't buy a boat or fly to Paris, or do any of the things people imagine when they hear $2 million. I hired a financial advisor Warren recommended, a woman from Columbus who specialized in trust management, and I put a plan together, conservative, long-term, the way Grandma Ruth would have wanted it. I'm not rich.
I'm secure.
There's a difference.
She taught me that.
Gerald took a plea deal in February. 3 years probation, full restitution of $40,000 paid in installments since he didn't have it in a lump sum, 200 hours of community service. It went on his record. In Millfield, a record follows you to the grocery store. Donna stopped attending church. Kyle moved to Columbus and didn't leave a forwarding address. I don't talk to my father. I didn't block his number. The door isn't locked, but I'm not opening it. Aunt Carol calls me every other Sunday now. We're building something slowly. It's small, but it's real. Every Sunday morning, I drive to Millfield Memorial Cemetery. I bring fresh flowers, petunias in summer, mums in fall, holly in winter. I sit on the bench near her headstone and I talk to her. I tell her about my patients, about the house, about the petunias. I think she hears me. Or maybe I just need to believe she does. Either way, I keep showing up every Sunday. Same as always. Sunday morning, my kitchen. The windows are open and the early light is falling across the counter in long, warm stripes. I'm making chicken soup, Grandma Ruth's recipe. Carrots cut thick, not thin.
She was very specific about that.
Celery from the garden, a whole chicken, not parts. Parts are for people in a hurry, Leah. We're not in a hurry. On the wall above the stove, there's a small frame. Inside it is a faded brown savings book. Clean now, the dirt is gone. Beside it hangs a photograph of Grandma Ruth on her porch, squinting in the sun, wearing her clip-on earrings and one of her 3 cardigans. And next to that, a photograph of my mother, young, laughing, silver bracelet catching the light. My father threw that book onto a grave and called it useless, but it was the most valuable thing anyone ever gave me. Not because of the money, because it was proof that someone planned for me. Someone believed I was worth protecting, even when no one else did. If you're listening to this and someone in your life is telling you that you don't deserve what's yours, whether it's money or respect or just a seat at the table, I want you to hear what my grandmother wrote in her letter.